But what I'm going to talk about will be slightly provocative at some places, just to review, and it will be in my personal capacity. It does not necessarily reflect what SPD or EGA thinks about it. And I'll start with a provocative and perhaps a politically or technically incorrect remark, which basically draws from two comments, one made by General Ehsan once he called NSG a cartel, and likewise once Dr. Tarirov was mentioning that, emphasizing on Zanger committee and then saying the 48 members within NSG also are not really following the non-proliferation treaty or the spirit of the non-proliferation regime. I may be misinterpreting what he said, but a thought which came to my mind was that why is it that the 48 countries within NSG prefer to call themselves participating governments? Why not members? Perhaps it is also because they also need some legality. So pronouncing the word government perhaps gives that status, or it's that issue of seeking status, some sort of status, because of which they prefer to call them participating governments. My exam question today is about how has Pakistan engaged with this nuclear suppliers group. It's a pretty simple question, and most of the participants here do know about it. So I'll be very brief and to the point about this. It makes my job easier. Pakistan has a long history of engagement with NSG, and in fact, its engagement with the non-proliferation regime goes back even before NSG was created in 1975, after a state proliferated and tested a nuclear weapon. So I think if one were to be correct, Pakistan's engagement, even though it had never signed NPT, goes much beyond that in 1950s. So this engagement has taken, with NSG, taken a more structured form over the last few years that has resulted into 3 outreach meetings with the NSG striker, as introduced by Mr. Khalil Hashmi. One was in 2011, second in 2013, and the third in 2015 at Vienna. And my mentor, Commodore Gunnery, has been personally engaged with in some of these meetings. And these interactions provided an opportunity to candidly exchange views on commitments related to non-proliferation, national export controls, energy standards, as well as other related technical issues. And Pakistan has invited NSG Troika to visit Pakistan at its earliest convenience, and I think this is the one of the best times before they meet informally again, perhaps later part of the year. This is the best time to visit Pakistan. And during the outreach meeting with NSG Troika in 2015, Pakistani delegation held constructive discussions and elaborated on its credentials for the NSG membership, highlighted the impact of discriminatory approach on non-proliferation regime and strategic stability, and discussed the way forward for Pakistan's continued engagement with NSG. Pakistan also shared a non-paper with the Troika with a request for its circulation to the NSG members. And I don't know if it was circulated because, as it was mentioned, we are yet not inside that hall, and we hope we will be. Pakistan, so what's Pakistan's case? If I were to sum it up in very few words, that it's a populous country, it's a huge market of around 200 million people, it has growing energy needs, and nuclear energy plays a small but important role in in an environment which is basically fossil fuel based. So there's an energy mix, and the more we rely on fossil fuel, the more we spend. So comparatively, reliance on nuclear energy is less cost intensive, and it also deals with the global ideals of and environmentally using the environmentally friendly means for energy. So Islamabad desires to build on these engagements with the Troika and with energy and gain the membership. We applied, as was related earlier as well, in May 2016, reminds me of May 1998. So we followed India on its heels and applied for the energy membership. Before I give some more remarks on our engagement and my views on the energy membership and the politics, etc. around it, I came up with these 4 or 5 principles I think which should be kept in mind while considering the applications of the non-NPT states. And the first one would be perhaps transparency. Not much is known what goes on in this cartel. The only thing that you get to know is sometimes, for example, last year once Arms Control Agency Association talked about this so-called Grossi process. That's one time that something was known in detail in public. The second is that whatever happens inside this group, it works on the basis of consensus. It should continue to work on the basis of consensus rather than a plurilateral process which actually then tries and pressurizes the rest of the members. Then it should not discriminate against any new applicants, be these non-NPT states or the states which are NPT signatory but want to join. Then the group also should, as a matter of principle, should work for non-proliferation and peaceful cooperation of nuclear energy rather than relying more on politics and enforcing a technological apartheid on countries which need access to peaceful nuclear technology. And the last one is that the little that I have tried to understand 70 years of the nuclear age, especially the non-proliferation, my impression is that there are perhaps 2 sets of international law in the field of non-proliferation. One for the states which are like-minded, and the one which are for the states which are not like-minded. And as Mr. Khalil Hashmi had mentioned earlier, there are 2 groups, and I tend to echo his sentiment, within the 48 members of energy. One who can be called the non-proliferation purists, and the other ones are those who are in a haste to violate some of the norms. And that's why perhaps there is sometimes called a cartel. And for them, all states are equal, but some states are more equal than the others. So as far as these non-proliferation purists are concerned, they basically are relying on NPT as its cornerstone, in which energy and IAEA are making are its 2 prominent institutions. And for them, the cardinal requirement is NPT, signature of NPT, and as Tahir Rauf mentioned, full scope safeguards. So that makes the case of countries like Pakistan, India, or Israel very complicated, because if it is etched into that stone and there is no flexibility, then you cannot expand the non-proliferation norms and regime by incorporating these states which lie outside the NPT. And you cannot revise NPT as well. So then comes the second option, which is to have uniform criteria on the basis of which you get the other non-NPT states within the NSG fold. And I think an attempt, as this arms control organization's paper of December 6 says, was made by Ambassador Manuel Grossi, who gave certain criteria, and some of the criteria was related by Dr. Tariq as well. But for me, I think it is, or likewise for Pakistan, what criteria suits Pakistan is perhaps something which would be a bit premature to talk about. Because first, I think as a step one, the NSG should decide how does it want to deal with the NPT applicants. Towards the end, I would just conclude by saying that Pakistan, as far as Pakistan is concerned, it remains committed to the objective of non-proliferation and shares the global concern regarding proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and the means of delivery. And as a participating government or member of NSG, Pakistan would like to constructively contribute to the global non-proliferation regime. And besides NSG membership, it's essential for its socio-economic development, technological advancement, and the participating governments tend to gain more by accepting Pakistan into their fold rather than keeping it out in the fold. I am here. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Zahid Kazmi. This concludes the list of our speakers in this session, and I will immediately go into the interactive session, questions and answers. We will have a time limit of 15 minutes for that, and then we will have some remarks by the chief guest, and we'll make it 20 minutes, and then we'll have remarks by the chief guest and break for tea after that. So please go ahead with your questions if you have those, if you have to raise them. And in doing so, kindly identify yourselves and make your questions very concise so that we can accommodate as many as possible. And avoid making comments, because that takes up time, and those who want to learn from the session are then at a disadvantage. So anyway, please go ahead and raise your hand.